Judgment here. It's Sunday, the 28th of June in Australia, and I'd thought I had my own opinions about what should be included and the likelihood of a new version of Diablo 2, which is rumoured to be called Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm still a bit uncertain as to whether such a Diablo 2 version will ever be produced, and I'll include a couple of links in the description that people have probably already seen. These links contain interviews with David Brevik and some text from other creators of the game, and they in effect say that creating a large screen, high resolution version of Diablo 2 would represent a formidable technical challenge. Having said that, there have clearly been a number of mods down the years for Diablo 2, so I thought I'd start by at least listing some of these to show what is at least possible with the current version of the game. There was, for example, a widescreen mod that evidently only worked with version 1.12, and in the video with David Brevik, he makes the point that this would show monsters off screen, not actually doing anything, but at least it shows that a widescreen version is possible. Two other well-known mods are Path of Diablo and Plugy, and I'll put a link in the description to Path of Diablo, and this link lists all the changes, the differences between Diablo 2 as it stands and Path of Diablo. And there are in fact a number of well-known streamers who play Path of Diablo instead of unmodified Diablo 2. The changes are too numerous to list here, but at least it goes to show what can be done with the game's current code. The other game modifier is Plugy, and again there are a lot of changes that are made here, and I will at least mention some of them and my opinions on them. One is that you have the ability to use ladder runewords in single player, and there are a number of well-known streamers, Mr. Llama SC and Dobrunsky125 R2, who clearly use the Plugy mod in single player. On the other hand, Alara Shade does not. It was Alara Shade's tutorial video that enabled me to start using GoMule, and when I last saw Alara Shade, she was still not using Plugy but enabling ladder runewords, and there are some other streamers who do that. You are allowed in Plugy unlimited respecs. I have no real opinion on this, except that I don't want the game to become too easy. To be able to respec your character at any time, I think does add a great element of ease to the game, and I have seen on a YouTube stream a player hit the Ancients, respec his character totally, defeat the Ancients, and then respec the character again afterwards using Plugy, and I'm not certain I'd want to go that far. I personally value the idea of being able to respec my character if possible, but I have dozens of tokens of absolution which you can obtain in unmodified single player, and I use these tokens very sparingly, even though I have a vast number of them. In Plugy you are allowed unlimited kills of the Cow King. This is something I would like to see implemented in a new version of Diablo 2. Now, while that would make the game a little easier, I don't think that is an enormous concession in that direction. One of the major features of Plugy, and one of the features that's missing in unmodified Diablo 2, is an unlimited stash. I'll show you a character, my oldest one. This is Sigma, my level 98 Necromancer. He was the only high level character I had for many years. Over here is what he carries in the stash to enable him to handle all areas of the game. Virtually all of my characters carry the Thunder God's Vigor Warbelt for protection against souls. Now, I personally like my characters where possible to be able to play in all areas of the game. So what I would like to see in a new version of Diablo 2 is an unlimited stash, but only outside the game in which you are currently playing. You cannot access extra equipment outside what you bring in with you and what the mercenary carries. We're in GoMule at the current time. Here are all the storage characters that I carry along with the main characters. The very first one on the list here is Agniastra, my fire sorceress. She, like Sigma, also carries the Thunder God's Vigor Warbelt. If I scroll down the list here, and there would be well over 100 storage characters. Long before Plugy was written, I established this system of characters, and initially I used TCP/IP games to transfer the items between characters, and that meant that you could not simply have access to an unlimited stash at any one time. It is a bit awkward to keep track of which character has which item, but I also have a web page editor called Composer where I do store much of this information. So it is possible to establish storage characters and either use TCP/IP games, which I did for many years, and then Go Mule to store lots of items, but it is a bit of a hassle, and I would like to see an unlimited stash in a new version of Diablo 2, but only outside the game in which you are playing. Those are some of the mods that have been made with the current game code. I don't know how much any new version of Diablo 2 will delve into that and try and come up with something new. However, I would like to mention here one thing which I consider to be the most important feature of any new version of Diablo 2. I would like to have the opportunity to import my old characters, and I consider this to be probably the most important single feature I would like to see in a new version. Sigma here was established on the 19th of October 2003, and through numerous computers and through numerous reinstalls of the game, I've always been able to get this character back and continue playing. I originally played from about the year 2001 up to about the year 2010, stopped for about 7 years, and started again in the year 2017. Now, as a measure of how long I've had this character and how long I've played it, I'll show you Nereza, my Traps Assassin, her individual Grail websheet. This is the Holy Grail website that I run for Nereza, my Traps Assassin, and you can still see at this stage she's well short of completing her own individual Grail. But if I combine what she has done with what other characters have done, I've found a total of the 506 unique armors and weapons and others and sets. I found a total of 505. And I'm currently looking for Tyrael's Might, which may take quite some years. Of the 506 total items you can see here, I have found all but the last 7 with Sigma, the necromancer you've just seen. After having established this character 17 years ago, nearly, I would be somewhat unhappy if all of a sudden I found a new version of Diablo 2 didn't allow me to import characters I had played previously. In turn, that means you need to be able to back up your character files. So what I would envisage is something like this. As if a new version of Diablo 2 does appear, it does not interfere with this version of Diablo 2. So the two could be played independently, but you could, if you want, import characters from this version of Diablo 2 into the new version. But you would always have the option of going back to the old version and playing those characters from where they're up to. I've backed up the character files for years. I nearly lost Chocolat, my lightning sorceress, at that stage when the D2S file became corrupted within the game, but fortunately I was able to retrieve a backup, and I would not like to see any version of Diablo 2 where the character files could not be backed up. I don't think it should be possible to hack the character files as easily as they are now, but the ability to maintain them to transfer between computers is, in my opinion, essential. Personally, I'd like to see both the single player and the online option remain, but I think there'd be some problems associated. I wouldn't like to see a version of Diablo 2 released that was single player only, and nor would I like to see a version that was online only. I can foresee a few problems if they tried to run a new version online. So let's imagine a new version of Diablo 2 is released. Players with online accounts then log on to Battle.net and may be faced with the possibility that their game will be upgraded to the new version regardless of whether they wish to do that or not. And this to me again demonstrates the point that I would like to have both the new version and the old version present and playable on my computers. If you do have a different version, are they going to establish new servers to allow it to be played? Now, in my opinion, that's what they should do. and that in turn raises the issue of cost. If we go on Battle.net, currently it is still free to play the game beyond the cost of your internet subscription. Now, my understanding is that most modern computer games don't run that way. I'll mention again that Diablo 2 is the only computer game I've ever played, but in my opinion I would see nothing wrong with asking people to pay a monthly amount to be able to play a better game. So it envisages something like this. You would buy the game as an internet download, I'm assuming is the most likely way it would be done these days, and you would then be asked to pay an extra amount to play the game online, and that would pay for the establishment of new servers and their maintenance. Now, while on the subject of playing the game online, what about the future of TCP/IP games? It's very old-fashioned, but I note that in recent months the speedrunners are using TCP/IP games to reset their maps in normal level, to look for a desirable map to level their characters as quickly as possible. Now, I used TCP/IP games for years to transfer items, and there is still a use, even this unmodified version of Diablo 2, to continually kill the Cow King. This character has killed the Cow King at normal level, but I use TCP/IP games to establish a portal to the Cow King with another character, and then this character can run in and kill the Cow King as often as they like, and the other character remains outside the portal to continually re-establish it. What about the speedrunning records? These, much to my surprise, are still being advanced. If you were to bring out a new version of Diablo 2, in my opinion, these speedrunning records should be reset. The old records could be continued to be attempted because you would still have the facility to play the old game on your computer, but the new records would be separate, and I would liken it to a golf course being changed slightly. Every time a golf course is changed, the course records are reset, and I consider this to be an analogous situation. What about having the Ubers in single player? Well, personally I'd like to see that. Here is Sigma's inventory. It contains some pretty reasonable gear. There's a 220 fast cast amulet for necromancers that took a lot of tries to obtain. It's not perfect gear, but it's still pretty good. But all of this gear is much less powerful than the gear available on Battle.net. Now, by contrast, here is the gear that my necromancer of similar build was able to obtain on Battle.net within a few weeks. Most of this gear I was gifted by other players, and would have taken a long time to obtain in unmodified single player. It's similar gear, and I deliberately tried to create a similar build on Battle.net to see how well the same idea would work, and it worked reasonably well. I was gifted the Enigma, but the addition of the Hellfire Torch and the Annihilus Small Charm gives you an enormous boost on Battle.net compared to what you would be able to get in unmodified single player. If the Ubers could be added into unmodified as single player, it would give the chance for single players to develop characters as powerful as their Battle.net equivalents. There are some general improvements I would like to see to the content of the game, but I think there are some small improvements that could be made within the game, particularly for what are called quality of life issues. We're in a game here with Ermin, my Wind Druid, who's currently at level 95. One possibility that would make the game a little easier, but something I wouldn't mind seeing, is the ability to rotate charms. So that 3x1 charm can only go in vertically. If that could be put in horizontally, that would give the chance for players to rearrange their charms for more efficient space. Currently, we are looking at Ermin's inventory and the stash over here. You also have need to have the trade window and also the Heraldric Cube open window as well. I would like to have the facility to have as many of these windows open at once. So for example, it should be possible to open both the inventory, the stash, the Heraldric Cube, and if necessary, the trade inventory with any of the merchants as well. I would like to have the facility to select multiple objects at once, either by shift click or control click. There are occasions when I would like to sell multiple items to a vendor, and I would like to be able to move those objects all at once, rather than have to control click or shift click every one. I would like the appearance to be a little bit more customizable. At the moment, any two characters who are using exactly the same gear will appear exactly the same on screen, and I would like to have a little bit more variability available as to how you can customize your appearance. I would like a better facility to show other players my gear. Now, this comes about particularly from Battle.net and also from my own streaming, where people taking part in the stream frequently ask to have the gear shown to them. Now, I've made up some Nightbot commands, but I prefer to have a command where I could just instantly show the gear. While we're on the subject of playing on bigger monitors, I would also like to have other information displayed either on the screen all the time or be available both to myself and other people looking at the game. I would like to have information like the quality level and the area level, and much of the information that's readily available in Go Mule and Plugy to be available on the screen, or easily obtainable like the current character screen. But I think this could be expanded to include a lot more information such as that displayed within Plugy. There are a couple of areas of the game where I think the drop anomalies should be eliminated. One of these is for Mephisto and also for Diablo. The super unique monsters surrounding Mephisto can drop better items and better runes than Mephisto himself, and within the Chaos Sanctuary, surrounding uniques can drop any item in the game, but Diablo cannot, and that is an anomaly I would like fixed. If Mephisto is a more powerful monster than his surrounding super uniques, and Diablo is more powerful than his surrounding unique monsters, then I would expect them to drop correspondingly better items. There are times where I would simply like to play without the mercenary, both for tactical reasons and also for the challenge. And one way I thought this could be done would be to have your mercenary take the place of Flavie out on the Bloodmoor. She's been standing out there for about 20 years now. I think she deserves a rest. It would simply be a simple exchange with the mercenary for Flavie. Flavie can go back to camp. Your mercenary can take the place of Flavie and look after the Bloodmoor, while you can go off and play without your mercenary. A very old one is the distinction between the number 5 and the number 6. Level 95, strength 157, dexterity 45, and energy 54. The 5, in my opinion, still looks a little bit too much like the 6 that's on display there for, say, vitality being 464. I wonder if it would be possible for new characters to begin at level 0 rather than level 1. It would mean 1 extra skill point. I hope that wouldn't significantly alter the balance of the skill points, but I sometimes think it's a bit funny that players start at level 1 and not at level 0, given that they haven't actually done anything yet. Another anomaly that could be fixed is the Bale experience gain. It's currently capped at players 3, but I'm of the opinion if a player's character is strong enough to kill Bale at players 8, then they should gain the experience for players 8. Level 99 is hard enough to obtain as it stands, but I don't see why Bale is capped at players 3 experience and Diablo is capped at players 7. Here's the quest log. Ermin is in a hell level game here. We're up to the quest of finding the soldiers in the Frigid Highlands. I don't consider it to be of any value unless you particularly need such low level runes to go and rescue the barbarians and simply receive Ral, Ort and Tal runes in all 3 levels. I would like to see a different set of runes on offer at each of the 3 levels. You could, for example, offer the runes for the Runeword Sanctuary in Hell level, and possibly even the Runeword Rhyme in Nightmare level. Or you could have it as 3 random runes up to a certain level, and the level goes up with each difficulty level. We are in a Hell level again. This time we're in it with Agniastra, my Fire Sorceress. She is one of the rare characters with whom I've completed the Nilithak quest. In my opinion, the Nilithak quest reward is arguably the worst in the entire game. Why you would want to personalise an item, I have no idea. It makes them less valuable for trade on Battle.net, and I think there may be other things that you could do with that quest reward that would be more appropriate. You could, for example, offer some sort of item upgrade. One thing I wouldn't mind the chance to do is to change the name of my character. That would be similar to personalising. We are in a hell level game here with Ermin again. again, and I have placed on the ground two cryptic axes. One is ethereal, the other one is socketed, and I would like to see something in the game which would distinguish between an ethereal item and a socketed item. A facility that should be more than possible with today's internet system should be voice chat. What you can see here are a number of members of my stream and also Discord finding some items. The first one is Schwinn and I finding an extremely rare ethereal death cleaver, and then Matsvik, who appears as Hebron, James Todd, who appears as Jim Bobby, and Cal Bryce, who appears as CB Cove, finding Halberd's Rain, and then Ariat's Face, also on Battle.net. And it certainly made things a lot easier to identify the items and decide their worth when there was a voice chat feature. I thought I'd finish by mentioning some balance issues within the game. All of the other mods of Diablo 2 have made some attempt to redress whatever the designers of those mods have perceived to be an imbalance. Now, you could make up an awful lot of these, and you could continually alter the balance of characters as has been done many times in the past to try and come up with an equally balanced set of characters. I thought I would, however, just mention two that have concerned me. Here is a character that you have never seen on stream. This is Castaway. Castaway was my attempt to create a necromancer that passed the 125 fast cast breakpoint and also uses an Act 5 barbarian mercenary. He's hit level 90, and I'll show you his skills. It's pretty much a straight Bonemancer build. The significance here is that Bone Wall, Bone Spear, Bone Prison and Bone Spirit have all been maximised. If I go to Bone Prison, you'll notice it has a life of 1533 and Bone Wall has a life of 1594. Now, the reason why is that we are in a nightmare level game. Bone Spirit and Bone Spear are of the order at best at about 3000 damage, with all skills fully synergised with the exception of Teeth. But watch what happens if we change to a Hell level game. Now Bone Prison is about 4,500 life and Bone Wall is about 4,700 life, but Bone Spirit remains about 3,100 damage and Bone Spear remains at about 2,550 damage. Now, if the designers of the game were prepared to scale up Bone Prison and Bone Wall merely because you've changed from Nightmare to Hell level, I'm wondering why they weren't prepared to scale up both Bone Spear and Bone Spirit by the same factor. I think it's been a constant complaint that the Necromancer doesn't do enough damage. If the amount of damage done by Bone Spirit and Bone Spear were to be scaled up, I think that would provide some incentive to players to play Bonemancer. The second game balance issue I would like to describe is for Nerezza, Traps Assassin. She is at level 95, and I've come to the conclusion that if I'm ever going to get her to level 96, it's going to take an awfully long time. She, like my Bonemancer characters, has some fully synergised skills. Extra points can go into Charge Bolt Sentry, but I realise in playing this character, it's not the damage that the traps do that causes her to level slowly. It's the rate at which those traps shoot their lightning bolts. We're going to go to Players 3 and go up to the Frigid Highlands here. And you can see the rate at which the traps shoot doesn't, in my opinion, mean that she does damage at a quick enough rate. Now, I've also said that this is the one character for which I would like to have Infinity. In particular, I've no doubt that would produce a much faster clearance rate. So my second request for a new version of Diablo 2 is that the assassin traps have less time between each lightning bolt that they emit. It's now Friday, August the 21st, and the search for Tyrell's Might will continue tomorrow on stream. Since I started making this video, there have been a couple of other developments. A YouTube artist called Michael Reznor has put up a Barbarian video in 4:3 ratio and a Sorceress video in 16:9 ratio, and both of these show increased resolution and increased frame rate, though YouTube seems to convert everything to 30 frames per second when I have downloaded it. These both look magnificent efforts on his part. The other development is another Diablo mod called Project Diablo 2, and this appears to be another attempt by another group of Diablo 2 players to provide updates to a game that Blizzard has not updated for quite some years. Now, I'm not quite certain what will be attempted or what will be achieved for a Diablo 2 remaster. However, having looked at Michael Reznor's videos, I think at a minimum I would be happy to receive a new game that played in the higher resolutions and higher frame rates and didn't alter the gameplay at all. My final word on the issue is to say that given Blizzard's erratic record on game remasters, I think the best thing that we can hope for is that they just don't stuff it up.